Hey, welcome to Bone World Entertainment, and this is the review for episode 1 and episode 2 of the new Ahsoka series. I'll give a brief overall thoughts on both episodes, and then we'll touch into a bit of spoilers. One thing I will say up front, being that it's one of the big parts of the show, is Grand Admiral Thrawn is not in the first 2 episodes. So just be aware of that if you're interested in watching this series. My overall view on both episodes: first of all, very, very slow paced, to the point that it gets quite boring. And I think that's a cardinal sin, is to make something boring. How do you manage to make Star Wars boring? Like, it doesn't matter what your feelings were towards the prequels and whatnot. You may not have liked the acting or the story, but you were never bored watching it. There was always something happening. And although this series, the first 2 episodes, seem to try and have something happening in each episode, it doesn't quite land. It's still quite boring. There's a lot of standing around staring at each other. And when they're not standing around staring at each other, they're walking slowly towards something. It's really weird the way that it is. The one thing I will give it is Ray Stevenson, his character of Baylan, and his apprentice, who's called Shin. There is something interesting about them. They do stand out. They are quite interesting. There's not a lot of them. You know, you kind of, when you go to them, you're not with them very long before you get big long gaps before you're back with them. But they're probably the most interesting thing about the show, for me, so far anyway. Yeah, it's very slow and very volume heavy, especially when we meet Ahsoka at the beginning of the first episode. Not the exact beginning, but about 2 minutes in, maybe 3 minutes. She's walking through this kind of ruins of an old temple, and there's just something about the look of the temple itself. It's all ruins, like there's no ceilings or anything. You see it in the trailer, actually. It's too clean or too smooth stuff, and you can just see that it's volume. And there's a lot of volume used all around this series. The ship effects are strange because sometimes they look great and sometimes they don't. It's really weird. I don't understand how they keep managing to do that with certain things. As for performances, the performances are okay for the most part, with some people. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, she's fine. There is a clip that they released that's from the second episode where her performance is very wooden.
Keep your lid on, Chop. Can't just shoot it down, it would crash into the port city. Just ready a tracking device. And don't miss this time. No, I did not go through your stuff. Did you look under the backup battery?
Yet that's the only scene where she came off like that, which was weird. The girl who plays Sabine is kind of a one note, to be honest with you. And Rosario Dawson's take on Ahsoka is, in the first 2 episodes anyway, it's almost like she couldn't care, to be honest. It's obviously the way they've told her to perform the role, but it's very strange. There is one of them, what were they called? Was it the Night Sisters? Is that what they were called? There's one of them called Morgan. Yeah, weird name. This is the one thing to really understand about this. This truly is Star Hers, not Star Wars. Because it's just girl boss after girl boss after girl boss after girl boss after girl boss. It's like, wow. You really are going for the whole forces female thing. The other thing to keep in mind with this show, and it'll be quite telling watching the whole thing to review it from my point of view, it is super connected and heavy with Clone Wars and Rebels. I didn't watch Clone Wars and I didn't watch Rebels. I watched tiny parts of it. I watched I think it was the Clone Wars when Qui-Gon Jinn came back. I watched that episode, or episodes, however many it was. And I watched in Rebels the Darth Maul and Darth Vader stuff. Other than that, I've never watched all of it or any of it. This is a direct sequel to them two animated shows. So if you never watched those before, you're probably gonna get lost in this. I've heard other people talk about what happened in those shows and where they went, so I kind of have somewhat of an idea. But yeah, other than that, you'd probably be quite lost. So my overall thoughts is, for the first 2 episodes, very boring. Very like Andor in the sense of being like such a slow pace. The difference with Andor though is the acting across the board was great and it looked great. You know, it was like real locations and they built actual sets, and that's just gone in this again. It's back to the whole volume thing. The music is strange because at one point when we meet Sabine for the first time in it, this is really strange. What sounds like a Chinese rock song starts playing, and it is so out of place. Like, it goes in a way, she's flying down this like highway on a speeder bike, and these two things that look like a cross between an X-Wing and something out of Star Trek, to be honest, all fly up. They're trying to bring her back. You would think that it was some completely other generic sci-fi movie or program that you're watching. Star Wars completely goes out the window when this scene kicks in because of the music. Like, it's literally an Asian rock song. I don't know. Yeah, it's just bizarre. So bizarre. That's the only time it happens as well. They seem to be doing this with the shows now. They're dropping things in that take you out. Like in Andor, when they swore, it immediately took you out of the show. And when this song kicks in, it immediately takes you out of the show. But with that, I'll get into some of the spoilers for the first 2 episodes. What would I give the 2 episodes out of 10? Probably a 4 out of 10. As I said, Ray Stevenson and his apprentice are the most interesting thing. Some of the visuals are really good, with the ships more than anything. Some of them really aren't. Again, that's so strange. But yeah, other than that, on Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, she's decent. She was decent in it. But with that, I'll touch into some of the spoilers and give you more of an idea what the show is so far. So, spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when we meet Ahsoka, she's looking for a map. And the show opens with a crawl. Not a proper Star Wars crawl where it's leveled, but it's just going straight up. That tells you about the Empire's gone, the New Republic is here, but there's still pockets of Imperial sympathizers and whatnot. And of course, they're all looking for Thrawn, which the show opens with Ray Stevens' character, Braylon, and his apprentice posing as Jedi, getting onto a New Republic cruiser and killing the crew, which we've seen in the trailers, searching for the map. Ahsoka finds the map first. It's funny, there's a bunch of droids there, like 4 or 5 of them, and she has to fight them. And 3 of them just set this self-destruct, which doesn't immediately go off. So she has time to run away, but when it goes off, it's like a nuclear bomb going off. And the funny thing about that is, when Braylon, Morgan, and Shin arrive back to that temple, the ruins of it are still standing. It's how are they still standing? That makes no sense. But Ahsoka can't figure out how to activate the map. She brings it to Hera, and she suggests she goes and gets Sabine. That Sabine could probably figure out how to do it. And they do. And Sabine takes the map off the ship. This is where the first episode ends, right? They do that thing that Disney Star Wars does. Sabine comes face to face with Shin, and they have a lightsaber duel. And yet, you've already guessed it, if you haven't already heard the spoiler that was out there. Sabine gets stabbed in the stomach with a lightsaber and survives. You hear that, Qui-Gon Jinn, you pussy? Well, what is it with everyone in Disney Star Wars can get stabbed and survive? Everyone just... And why is there still so many Jedi around? Like, good God, did Order 66 actually happen? Yes, don't know. But the second episode opens with Sabine in the hospital, recovering, and everything she done when she activated the map, which includes like all the recordings, all the data she collected, one of the droids smashed up. So Ahsoka goes to her place to see if one of the droids is still there. It is. She cuts its head off, brings it back to Sabine, and Sabine retrieves the memories to figure out where the droid came from. And it came from Corellia, which is where they're building all the New Republic ships and decommissioning all the Imperial ships. But Ahsoka and Hera go there, and it turns out there's gigantic hyperdrives being built that seems to be classified, and everyone working in the operations of it were still trying to work for the Empire. Strange, but whatever. There's what appears to be an Inquisitor. By the way, Ahsoka's, when she brings the map to Sabine, she doesn't straight up say we need to figure out how this works because it leads to Thrawn, and some Sith basically are trying to get it. She leads it by saying, I think this could bring us and find Ezra. Now here's the thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm right about this. There's a character who seems like one of the what you might call them, Inquisitors, with Braylon and Sheen. He's only there 2 or 3 times, but he has a big fight with Ahsoka in the second episode. You don't see his face. He's got a complete facial mask on. I'm willing to bet right here, right now, that somewhere probably in the penultimate episode or the last episode, we're going to find out that Inquisitor type character is Ezra. I bet you anything it's Ezra. And if it's not, it'll be Blind Head. Or was Ezra the one that went blind? What was the other one's name? Kanan, was it? I guarantee it's going to be one of them two. Hera sticks a tracking device, or more so she gets Chopper the droid to do it, sticks a tracking device on a transport ship that took the hyperdrive. They find where that's gone, and we see where it's gone, and it's bringing this hyperdrive to this gigantic ring being built, which is either gonna open some sort of portal to get to the other galaxy to get Thrawn, or it's gonna be some super insane hyperspeed ship type thing. It's just a big ring with like 5 or 6 engines. Weird. And it ends with Sabine cutting her hair, getting back into her what's like the Mandalorian armor, and joining back up with Ahsoka and being ready to be trained by her again, as Ahsoka calls her apprentice. Or no, she doesn't. She calls her Padawan. Which is also strange because they keep talking about how Sabine was Ahsoka's apprentice. Ahsoka wasn't a Jedi Master. She should never had an apprentice. And this is one of the other arguments when Clone Wars came out and Anakin had Ahsoka as the apprentice. That should never have been the case because he wasn't a master. But anyway, that's it for episodes 1 and 2 of Ahsoka. Again, quite boring. There is some interesting elements, more so with Banin and Sheen, but other than that, yeah, we'll have to see where this show goes. But yeah, it's just more the same, to be honest. Is Star Wars saved? No. Is this Star Wars? No. This is Star Girls. It really is. Yeah. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. And with that, I'll leave it there for this one. So cheers, and catch you in the next one.